Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome, global entrepreneurs and digital nomads. In today's interconnected world, running an international business or working across the borders is increasingly common. However, this brings its own set of challenges, especially when it comes to taxation. Let's dig into the essentials of international tax. But before we get into this lovely topic, let me introduce myself. So my name is Shane Harris, and around here on these social media platforms, I'm also referred to as Shane the Negotiator. And I help coaches, consultants, and service providers who are overwhelmed and lack guidance to achieve true financial freedom. And I do that by providing expert tax and coaching services. So let's get into global tax essentials, understanding international tax for digital nomads and global businesses. So before we get into that, I was actually planning on leaving this country in 2021. So around August 2021, I had plans to be out. I was going to move to Costa Rica, which that's still in the cards. I might still actually do that. However, I decided not to move because it was some issues in terms of my residency there and some in my tax and also with my employment. And I'm not going to get into that. So I held off on that momentarily until I ironed that out. So now that I have all the information that I need, I might actually still move on over there to Costa Rica. You never know where I'm going to be at. Spend a couple months over there, spend a couple months over here, because why not, right? So I know oftentimes many of you service-based businesses, you can work wherever you want to work. So oftentimes I do have some people who are in Costa Rica. I do have people in Puerto Rico. I have people all over the world that are business owners that come to me for services that I am helping with. So that's why I put together this particular video, this recording. I've added this into the pathway playlist on YouTube, because this is going to benefit a lot more people who may not be aware of some of the taxes when it comes to living abroad and you still have residency in the United States and so forth. So the complexity of international tax. So when you operate across the borders, you have to consider the tax laws of not just your home country, but also that of the country where you are conducting the business. So this can be complex as you need to navigate varying tax rates, the treaties, and regulations to stay compliant. So if you think the U.S. tax laws was confusing and you don't want to deal with, wait till you cross the seas. That's a whole nother other tax stuff that you do not want to play with and you don't want to mess with. So understanding tax residency. One key concept is tax residency. So most countries tax individuals based on the residency status. So wherever you live. As a digital nomad or a business owner with a global presence, you need to understand how each country defines residency and what that means for your tax obligations. And this is why I said I took a pause on my fleet to go to Costa Rica, which I was going to spend probably 6 months out the year or more, and then probably come back and be over here for 6 months. But I was moving. I was getting out of here, and that's still in the cards. However, I had to pause on things because I was still learning about international tax laws at the time, and I wasn't ready. I didn't want to jump in the deep end, so I put a pause on that. But you never know. So let's go into dealing with double taxation. And this is just like C corporations where you have double tax. Well, yeah, we talking about being a digital nomad and you have that double taxation possibility. So common issues in double taxation is paying taxes on the same income in two different countries. To mitigate this, many countries have what's called a tax treaty that provides relief from double taxation. So it's crucial to understand these treaties and how they apply to your situation. So an example of a treaty would be, and it has the same, it's a similar to when you are in the United States and you live in one state and work in another state and you have to pay taxes in both states. So let's say, for instance, when I worked as a nurse, I lived in Maryland and I worked in Georgia. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my states. I live in Georgia now. I lived in Maryland, but I worked in Delaware. I'm mixing that up. So when I had these two states, of course, I had to pay, when I worked in Delaware, I had to pay income tax for for Maryland, I keep saying that my home state now, I had to pay income tax for Maryland and I have to pay income tax for Delaware. Well, Delaware is a tax-free state. So at the time, I didn't understand I wasn't into taxation as heavy as I am now. I wasn't really quite aware of what was going on in terms of, when I filled out my W-4 form and I put my exemptions and all of that stuff. HR didn't educate me at the time, and I did not educate myself enough at the time. So I was paying minimal taxes and I was getting somewhat of a credit for Maryland, but it wasn't enough. So when you live in one state and work in another, you're paying taxes on the same income twice. So to prevent that from happening, when you file your taxes, you can actually get a credit from one state to the other state. So the same applies when it comes to this double taxation with this tax treaty. If you are in a particular country and you're also in the United States, you can potentially get credit for whichever taxes you've already paid. So if you paid taxes towards this country that you're living in, when you go and you file your taxes, the United States may give you may have a credit based on the taxes that you pay. So you're not double taxed. You're not paying taxes on the income twice. Now, all countries do not have this tax treaty. So you do have to be careful when it comes to this. So if you are planning on working globally, moving out of the United States, or being dual and you're back and forth, you definitely want to reach out to a professional so that you are making sure that you are in compliance and you are on the right track. You can always reach out to me, but definitely I want you to reach out to someone. This is one area where you do not want to do this yourself, okay? Unless you are a tax professional and you're into taxation, then okay. Everybody else, or if you're a lawyer or something and you're into taxation, then okay, you're on point. Anybody else besides those two that I listed, don't do this yourself. Okay? So taxation of digital products and services. So selling digital products or services adds another layer of complexity, makes it a little bit more difficult. Different countries have different rules on the VAT. So that's the value added tax. That's the VAT, or the GST that you'll often see, goods and service tax for digital goods. So you need to determine where your customer is based and apply the correct tax rate accordingly. So if you go back and if you did not catch the last video that was done where we were talking about sales tax and we're talking about nexus, and different states have different tax rates, and based on if your customer you have customers in that state, or if you have employees in that state, if you have an office in that state, you may have what's called a nexus, and you may have taxes that you have to pay in those particular states. This is something similar with that VAT and the GST, okay? So tools and resources for compliance. So thankfully, there are tools and professionals that can help you. Tools. So there's tools that's available, like tax softwares that designed for international business can be invaluable, which if you're not in taxation, then you're not going to have access to this. So I'm speaking to those people who are in taxation. There's tools, they're available, tax softwares that can actually help you with this. Additionally, consulting with a tax professional who has the expertise in international taxation can save you a lot of headache. So if they do not have experience in international taxation, you do not want to go to that professional, because you're going to be in some serious trouble and they are also. Okay? So it's going to save you a lot of trouble and a lot of heartache and a lot of pain later. So please, 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 if you don't listen to anything else that I have said up until this point, listen to this and consult with a professional if you are doing business across the seas. Okay? So here's a case study of freelance consultant. So a freelance consultant is based in the United States, but is working with clients that are in Europe and in Asia. They had to navigate multiple tax systems. So by working with a tax professional, they were able to structure their business in a way that minimizes the tax liability and, of course, avoiding that double taxation. So some best practices for international tax compliance is to stay on top of your international tax. Keep accurate records. So that record coming up again, keep accurate records Stay informed about tax laws in the countries you are operating in, and don't hesitate to seek professional advice or professional help. Remember, tax laws can change, and staying compliant is key to running a successful international business. Okay? So in conclusion, to wrap this on up, see, I've been making them short and sweet. I've been attempting to. Managing international taxes may seem exhausting, but with the right approach, it's more than manageable. It's a crucial part of ensuring the success and sustainability of your global businesses and ventures. So here's teasers for the next week. Come on in close. Let me give you guys some teasers. So next time we're going to turn our attention to maximizing charitable contributions and the impact on their business taxes. So charitable giving benefits. Strategic contributions and tax advantages will provide insights into you making your generosity work for your business. And I will see you on that next one. So don't forget, come back next week for that, okay? So in closing, thank you for joining this session. If you have found insights and value in these tips and these information has been helpful to you, please like, subscribe, and share on this YouTube channel. And here is to your continued success in your global market. So until I come back with that next tip, or if I slip on in there with some of my shorts and reels and whatever else that I do, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.